The Late Late Show at Fir Park, new deals for Hattati and O'Reilly, and Lazio on the horizon. We'll cover it all and much more in this week's show. This is the Celtic Exchange Weekly. This is Tino, and this week I'm joined by Miff and James as we cover all things Celtic. Miff, mixed fortunes this week for Glasgow's Big Two. Celtic with a late winner, whilst Queen's Park lose out 4-1 to Dundee United. What do you make of it all?
Harsh nilled Spiders. Hello Tino, hello James, hello listeners. Yes, well, these are the days that you support Celtic for. Almost looking like you're going to throw it away, bring it back, which in itself would have been perfectly acceptable, but then the excellent wee Brucey bonus of the afternoons events, or the later afternoons events at Ibrox on Armed Forces Day nonetheless. So it really was quite the turnaround, because for a brief 30 seconds I really thought we'd shot ourselves in the foot, albeit that Motherwell are a different proposition this season to what they've been in. Well, even in fairness, last season we did struggle against them as well, so just absolutely delighted that we managed to extend our lead at the top, but then there's been a bit of carnage afterwards, which we'll maybe get into.
You can get into it now if you want. James, the Brendan Rodgers spoke after the Rangers game, didn't he, about it was the first big moment for this new group of players and how important those moments were for, you know, galvanising the squad and helping them grow together and kick on together. And Saturday was another big moment.
It really was for the squad cohesion and the winning and celebrating together. You know, just it's things like that make teams. If you look at it, Angie's first season, there was 2 or 3 games like that at Ross County did United off the top of my head, and that really pulls a team together and just shows, you know, it's not over till it's over, and you just keep pushing. Yeah.
Not to encourage fans jumping onto the pitch, but we had a wee chat just before coming on air here just about some of the funny footage and fun images that have come about after Matt O'Reilly's winner. The one that really got me was the lad jumping fully in love into O's arms, you know, Titanic style, and just going for it. But it just shows, you know, you get some of the pundits down south, guys on TalkSport saying, you're supporting Celtic, you can't have that much fun. It was all the fun in the fun park.
I think people that say that obviously don't understand the club, and I used to get that levelled at me when I worked through in Edinburgh. Was about, when you win a trophy, it won't mean as much as we, like Hibs and Hearts fans saying it won't mean as much as we do, but because we're always under the pretty much constant pressure to be better than Rangers, us winning a trophy generally means they don't. So you're always kind of doubly celebrating almost. And the fact that pressure exists and is constantly there, and is the reason why Rangers currently don't have a manager, means that you always take exceptional joy in any win, and also just staying ahead of the pack, because it's been a strange summer for us all. I think we're all still trying to get used to the fact that what's happened's happened, and we're kind of planning that route forward. Off the back of that, these events happening the way that they're happening, I agree with you, James. It's pretty much like what happened with Angie's first season, where these wee last minute winners that builds that sort of momentum and confidence behind the team, and really gets the fans behind the team. Not that was ever the case that they weren't, but we were a wee bit fractured in the summer. I'd even go back to the performance, Firewood performance, Livingston, Ibrox naturally winning there, and then this has just been absolutely fantastic. And I see also the emotion for Rodgers, I know will be a big thing for a lot of fans, given that there was a bit of scepticism about him coming back.
Yeah, and you can't doubt that. You know, amongst the celebrations after O'Reilly's goal was one Brendan Rodgers running down the touchline, Jose Mourinho style,
Barry Fry
getting stuck in, and that is not Brendan Rodgers. Listen, you've seen him have his moments, you know, the raised salute at the dugout and stuff. He rarely gets that carried away, and you know, we talk about whether the players are bought in. I think it's clear that Brendan's bought in as well.
It's bought in, but it's probably a wee bit of tension coming off him as well. You know, he's maybe just been feeling, maybe not the last couple of weeks, but the early part of the season when there was so much hard work to do to get this team going. I mean, it's really struck me how different Rodgers and Postecoglou's styles are. You know, just I think it was last week I was thinking about it, the play is so much more considered, patient. It's not cavalier. It's probably more mature, if that's not a disparaging term on Ange, you know, because we saw it in Europe. You know, it's like, it's exciting, it's great, but there's your 5-0. Rodgers isn't going to be like that, so he's maybe just been feeling that wee bit of tension and I've got a lot to prove here, and then it looks like it's not going to work for you on Saturday, and then it does work. There's a lot of just release of pressure on him there, and he just bombs down the line. It was great.
Yeah, great to see. But a miss of us not to cover the myth that was Michael Beale, who's now out of job. But I'll give you a first crack at that, James, because I know you're keen. But You have to look at it as a mad appointment in general. A guy who's never been a manager, he had 5 months at QPR, was starting to struggle at QPR, and then Rangers decide he's the man for the job. The suspicions were that he was out his depth from day dot. He had lots of excuses. Not my team. This is Gio's gap. Not my fault. Blah, blah, blah. Proof's in the pudding. He's now had, a dozen games this season, and rightfully been shown the door. You can't hang on with those kind of results.
Yeah, I mean, the media have got a big part to play in this because they tell Rangers fans that this guy is the guy and he was the brains behind Gerrard and he stopped 10 in a row. Celtic stopped 10 in a row. All of this stuff, the COVID season was just an absolute anomaly and they thought it was 9 in a row type times are coming back. You've got to bear in mind, this is the same as Celtic having let go of Gavin Strachan. He's gone and managed Derby County for 9 games and then we've signed him back. Not the assistant manager, the assistant to the assistant manager. So he was miles away from a job the size of Rangers. 9 games at QPR doing very, very little.
It was more than 9 games. I think it was maybe 5 months.
9 wins, 9 wins, 20 games or something.
22 games.
Aye,
But
9 wins out of 22.
Yeah, but point taken, he certainly wasn't qualified. Miff, what's your take on the whole Beale situation?
If you've watched Big Dessers and signed them, you deserve all you get.
That's it, and that's the bigger situation for Rangers because they've backed this manager. I don't know what's going on there that they thought we'll sack Ross Wilson or we'll move him on. I think he went to Southampton maybe. We'll move on the director of football guy and we'll just give this guy who was a coach not that long ago, we'll just give him 13 million and we'll see what happens. And now whoever comes in, you bring in Mourinho if you want, but he's still got Dessers and others to deal with.
I think it's come home to roost. The COVID season's actually come home to roost for Rangers more than Celtic, and you would never ever have thought that, especially when I was on here greeting my eyes out game after game and episode after episode just about the state that we were in or getting ourselves in and where we found ourselves. But actually the kind of falseness of that season has lulled Rangers into a false sense of security. But I think that the treatment of Van Bronckhorst is ultimately what's come back to haunt them after the job that he'd done. It's not my concern, Rangers, at the end of the day, but because it is in effect a 2-horse race here, it's natural to take an interest in your rivals. I know it's often, you're obsessed. No, shut up. But Van Bronckhorst was given a very small window to try and improve on what he'd done and then chopped, which I thought, just for the sake of looking in, that's a bit harsh. The fact that they replaced him with Beale was just, you hear a lot of nonsense through the media. You hear a lot of nonsense spoken as incoming managers at any club try to get the fans on side, and you understand that. But Beale took that just to a complete other level, to the point where he spoke that much nonsense and had so little gravitas behind it that even the Rangers fans got onto it just as quickly. And that's quite something, because they normally like being fed all the nonsense, especially for the media. So a really horrific appointment, but the recruitment is the one glaring thing, and ultimately that's the best gift to Celtic, because the rectification of that will probably take about 18 months, I think, by the time you get guys off of contracts and weed them out the door. So hopefully by then we're off into the sunset, into the new structure, Champions League. But what I would say, the one kind of warning sound I would play is that we can't be complacent around that. We can't look across the city and say, well, Rangers are in a mess, so we can just coast. We have to be driving forward with our own ambitions rather than being limited by just simply being better than Rangers. And I know we spoke about that at length, but I think it's worth raising again. It's even more pertinent at this particular moment when Rangers are in the mess they're in.
It's a really important point, and I think, and as with Ange Postecoglou, Brendan Rodgers himself won't allow for complacency, and he'll manage that within the group of players. But there's also an onus in Brendan Rodgers, potentially, James, to manage up the way and make sure the board, and I know you've got your suspicions that they're not as ambitious as Brendan Rodgers, so he's got a job to do to make sure they don't take their foot off the gas and we can really kick on. Okay, let's take a look at what's coming up on this week's show. First up, we look at Celtic's winning mentality under Brendan Rodgers as they dug deep to now make it 4 away wins from 4 in the league campaign so far. Elsewhere, we then look at the ongoing work that's been done off the park as Matt O'Reilly and Rio Hatate become the latest 2 players to commit their long-term futures to the club. Then it's time for the 11th man as the boys try once again to name the missing man from a well-known Celtic lineup. And finally, we take a look at Lazio as Celtic prepare to face the Italians in match day 2 of this season's Champions League.
Is that all we're doing in Beale,
That's plenty, James. Okay, let's get the ball rolling by looking at the mentality of this Celtic side, who have now taken 12 points from 12 after visits to Pittodrie, Ibrox, Livingston and now Fir Park. Might have 4 tough places to go, but 4 wins, and it reflects well on what Rodgers is trying to build.
Absolutely. I think I know Aberdeen haven't necessarily get the points haul they would have expected at this point in the season, but I think the general consensus is they're a decent side, they're an improving side, and I think that was shown with their performance in Frankfurt, never mind at Ibrox. Livingston is a notorious hard place for us to go. Rangers are our closest rivals, and Motherwell, as I said, are a very difficult proposition this season. So I think that was part of the unsettlement of the Rangers fans as well, was the fact the teams that they had faced and they were behind versus who we had faced. I think they found that a wee bit off, and that was why the level of performances, they thought that this isn't happening. I think for us, our level of performance has been steadily improving. I think even the Feyenoord game as well was a positive in the main. And then I think I loved the fact that when we went down to 9 men, we were still putting our bodies in the line. You could see the players were really playing for each other. I thought that's almost just as important as having a resounding victory, is seeing that the players were really, really committed not to make any work. It would have been very easy to chuck it, let's be honest. Nobody would have been apportioned any blame, a harsh sending off, etc. But I think that showed that there was a development spirit in the squad. I think for me the biggest concern was that a lot of those players you would have labelled as Angie's players. Rodgers coming in, different method, different structure to the team, definitely a different way of playing, as you said, James. They all seem bought in. I don't see any kind of sulking faces. We've looked after the main characters in the squad, and I think that's what's helped build that solid foundation to go away to these places and have a really robust defence and overcome a fair few hurdles. The fact that we've had untested centre-half pairings at almost every one of those fixtures, the fact that we've had players out injured, Hatate's really just coming back to fitness, we've had to go fairly lengthy periods without him. It just all bodes really, really well. I think what we want now is that continued improvement, because I think there are still heights to hit.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, as Miff touches on, and we'll get to it in the next section, but the stability, James, that having so many new players signing up, the deals, and there was a question mark, will these players of Ange's buy into what Brendan Rodgers is looking to do? And we'll get to it, but there's 8 guys have signed new deals, and it's the core of the team, it's all the key players, so they're clearly bought into what he's doing.
Yeah, that's your answer if they're buying in or not. They're not signing new deals when they're looking for moves elsewhere. Is that stability? I mean, I think there's a lot of work to be done between January and the summer, and augmenting and adding to that stability and adding to the core. But yeah, you've got the guys that you'd be picking week in, week out, all on long-term contracts.
Yeah. I'm going to read out a quote here, James, and this is before the Motherwell game from Brendan Rodgers. So he says, "I think the team have taken a really big mental step forward, and I think you see that in how they're performing. The determination, the intensity, the quality starting to move forward into the levels that I want to get to, and that's always the beginning of a really good team." That was before we then go and score a last-minute winner against Motherwell. So Brendan Rodgers is certainly highlighting it, but we can all see that mentally they're continuing to push forward, and the players will be in a good place.
They will be. What I would say is that the last minute winner covers a few iniquities. I thought Motherwell were great, very well organised, didn't chuck it, went the whole game, really disciplined, stuck to their tasks, physical, and if you get Colin as referee, that's always a good thing to have. But I thought we were poor in a lot of areas. And if you look at the squad, if you look at the players playing, if you go from Bain to Taylor to Turnbull to Yang to Forrest, they're guys that shouldn't be starting for Celtic. So we got there, but there's work to be done.
Strong performance for the Bainiac.
Decent, very decent.
Strong.
When he was called upon, he'd one big save to make.
I'm calling it strong.
Scales as well shouldn't be playing first team for Celtic.
And we know that, but at the moment we can only put out what we can put out. We know that Joe Hart will come back, we know that Carter Vickers will come back, and various other players in different areas. But I think just in terms of as a collective, at the moment all Rodgers can do is work with the group that's available to him, and I think he's putting them out in such a fashion that they're responding to his instruction. Yeah, there was things that could have been better on Saturday, no doubt about it. But I think you can't dismiss Motherwell's part in it. They have become a very decent side, Miff, and they're obviously very well coached under Stuart Kettlewell. And what he's got, and I think it was me and Paddy that done the pre-match, Brendan Rodgers identified the fact that defensively they're 5-4-1. Very quickly when they turn over possession and go into attack, they go 3-4-3. And you've seen that several times. There was a spell around about the 65th minute in the game where Celtic actually found themselves under a wee bit of pressure. When we were moving forward into their final third, you just had the blanket. You had the 5, you had the 4. There was 9 guys plus a goalie in front of you. And I think even the best teams find that hard to break down. But I don't label it as Motherwell parking the bus. I just thought it was a really well-drilled, disciplined defensive performance. And then when they got forward, they have good creative players and good pace. And they did cause us a few problems as well. I just think they're a decent side, and sometimes that's, you've got to give credit for that.
I think the results this year show that, and even the steady improvement was coming last year as well. I mean, it is just a beautiful part of the world. But the thing I admire most about Motherwell is their ability to constantly regenerate, and I'd say that probably for most teams. I'd say the same for St Mirren. Excuse me, albeit that Robinson's just went and picked most of these old Motherwell team up and played them again in St Mirren strips, but they're constantly they're losing their best players almost every summer and needing to go back in again and find the next gem. And I think it's to their credit that they've managed to produce a team which has started the season so well. That said, in the first half, I felt we utterly dominated the game, but just made the wrong decisions in good areas. We had chances to really pick passes and open up. I thought Kyogo's effort was excellent with the left foot on the turn. It wasn't too far away at all. And probably Yang on another day would have picked better passes at times. He just seemed to kind of slowly fizzle out the game when he looked like he was going to be really dangerous to start with. So Motherwell did frustrate us, but I also thought that we could have been a bit better and a bit slicker with the ball in the first half. Second half was probably more a continuation, and if anything, Motherwell were maybe a wee bit more direct in trying to cause us problems. But ultimately, I think there's been a blueprint set out this season by other teams to show how to play against us, and somebody like St Johnstone who frustrated us at Celtic Park. Other teams that are better than St Johnstone, like Motherwell, will do it better. So it's up to us to be better and get better and break them down. We just showed amazing resilience, and I think it's just a continuation of this team getting more familiar with each other and just getting better and better each week.
Yeah, just in terms of the winner as well, I just want to kind of dwell on a couple of points about it. So the goal comes 48 seconds after we take kick-off. So Motherwell equalise, we take centre in 48 seconds. It's Matt O'Reilly time and we're good to go. But what I really admire about what Celtic done is Celtic could have rolled the ball back from kick-off and just launched it. Let's just launch it and we'll see what happens. And actually, they actually get 3 bites at the cherry. So Celtic, they roll it back. I can't remember who takes centre, probably O. And they just start passing it about and they try and probe. And Motherwell get a foot in. And Celtic start again. And Motherwell get a foot in again. I think it was Palmer that tried to make something happen. And eventually, you'll remember it went from Scales to Bain and back out. And eventually Nat Phillips finds himself with the ball. And he's got the composure to roll it across to Greg Taylor, who I think he had his moments again, some good stuff, some not so good stuff. A real heavy challenge on him,
Wild challenge.
Which could have played a part, and we'll see how he is after that. But for him to then lift the head and curl the cross to where it went to, is phenomenal by Matt O'Reilly to stay switched on. But someone on Twitter, I think it was Martin Donaldson on Twitter, highlighted the move that James Forrest made for the goal. So if you watch Forrest very closely, he takes a defender right into the box with him, and the ball goes over Forrest and the defender, leaving O'Reilly to step in. I think it's the guy Harry Payton switched off, and O'Reilly then comes in and does his thing.